Animals have been the source of medical improvement. Animals are tested daily in new experiments to explore and advance medical knowledge. In some instances, as a result of using animals for medical research, there have been cures developed that may have saved the lives of hundreds of people. However, in other cases, the outcome is much different, and animals have been tested and experimented with only to die. Many people think that it is not only right, but also necessary to use animals for medical research and possible advances. On the other hand, there are some, including myself, that believe it is not right or necessary to put animals' lives at stake for the sake of possible medical advances. Also, there are alternatives to using animals for these experiments, so why not explore those instead of just using animals that cannot speak for themselves? How is it right for humans to get benefits with no risk, while animals must take all the risk and possible death and may not receive anything in return? There are many animals used in medical experiments. Every category of animal is used somehow in medical experiments. The variety ranges over fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, rodents, dogs, cats, monkeys, and other large animals such as horses, cows, and many more. An estimated 180 million animals are used for these kinds of experiments around the world every year. The majority of animals used in experiments are usually rats and mice. However, many other mammals and other types of animals are used each year as well. I feel that it is not necessary to use animals for these experiments at all, and even if we would have to, then we could lower the amount of animals that we use. Considering that about 57 million people die each year across the globe, could the number of animals used in experiments be reduced? Not everyone dies because of lack of medical advances. Why then do people feel the need to jeopardize about 180 million animals' lives in hopes of maybe saving less than 57 million human lives? The majority of human losses are because of automobile accidents. What more could we possibly do in science to help that? We have already installed airbags in every nook and cranny of vehicles. What experiment could possibly advance this factor? What could be next? Putting animals through car accident experiments to see how to better prepare humans for them? There was a medical experiment done in 2004 that required up to 200 rats, dogs, and other animals to be force-fed different amounts of a new toxic substance to determine the dose that would kill exactly half that group of animals. How does this experiment advance or improve our lives or work towards a cure for disease? The answer is that it doesn't. People can't logically think that the use of up to 100 animals for only one experiment is necessary or right at all, can they? I certainly don't believe that these types of measures need to be taken to further enhance our medical field today. I realize that in some experiments that animals do not die, but on the other hand, there are experiments like the one I just mentioned that have a sole purpose of doing just that. Another example is an experiment to test vaccines. A vaccine is only considered effective if at least 80% of the vaccinated animals survive after being exposed to a particular disease. However, the disease must also kill 80% of a control group that is not protected by the vaccine. In many experiments, even a positive outcome of approval has fingerprints of murder all over it. Some may say that I am a bit overboard, but there are many who would agree with me. There are animal protection and animal rights groups all over the world that fight against experiments that carelessly take the lives of hundreds of animals. So why are they so easily ignored by those who feel it's necessary to risk animals' lives for the good of science? If an experiment has the potential to cause pain, suffering, distress, or lasting harm to the animals, it only needs to be licensed by the government and it is approved. Why is access to harming many lives so easily accepted? According to the European Center for the Validation of Alternative Methods, researchers must assess the pain that an animal may feel during an experiment and justify its suffering by what the research can achieve. There is a wide range of experiments, but many can involve poisoning, disease, infection, wound infliction, application of skin or eye irritants, food, water, or sleep deprivation, subjection to psychological stress, brain damage, paralysis, surgical mutilation, induced organ failure, genetic modification, and associated physical deformity, burning, and electric shock. Animals may die as part of the experiment or are killed afterwards for post-mortem examination. Of course, after discovering all these facts that I did not even know before I was against this process, it is hard to see the other side. However, as difficult as it may be to understand, there is another side to these experiments. There can be positives to this act of using animals for medical research. For example, as a result of some of these experiments come great advances in medicine. Some of these advances actually saved human and sometimes even animal lives as well. While many animals are being killed in medical experiments, others are being saved. It may seem as though the animals in research die to save more. Perhaps if 200 animals die in an experiment, it may prevent the death of 2,000 animals in the future. Perhaps some animals are killed after consuming a certain product. When the product is put on the market, it will have hazardous warnings on the label that prevents the death of a human consuming it. Just maybe the death of a few rats could be the savior of a few infants. Or by chance, with a few more experiments and a few more animals' lives taken, a cure for cancer will evolve. However, it seems as though some strive to improve science instead of life. For some reason, it is odd to me that so many lives must be taken to possibly just maybe improve the lives of a few. So then, if some are so set on improvement, why don't they try alternatives? Of course, I can see that because of some experiments in which animals are used, people were helped. However, I believe that there are alternatives to using animals. For example, perhaps there are some people that are willing to use their bodies for medical experiments. After all, they would be taking one for the team, and some people get a great sense of satisfaction out of knowing that they have done something to help many others. Perhaps some could endure an experiment for the rest of it all. If this method was used instead, I think that it would be right because it would be by choice. Animals have no choice when they are used in experiments. They can't speak up for themselves. If an experiment must be used, it should be first approved by the one that must undergo the process. Many people have seen the commercials on television that are heartbreaking and leave you feeling the need to donate to a certain health foundation to help those in need. Perhaps if the speaker of the commercials were so passionate about those they were helping that they would ask for money, maybe then they wouldn't mind donating their bodies to experiments to cure those in need that they speak of. Hi, I'm Cami. Today I'm going to tell you about the huge problem of obesity in America.
Thanks.